right here in the middle of the wrist, if I come about 3 finger widths away from where the wrist crease is, and I go 3 finger widths away, and I'll kind of come in closer to the camera a little bit. So right here, and if you go between these 2 tendons, you're going to find a little dip there. Now, in Chinese medicine, they don't call them acupressure points. They call them cavities. So if you feel along between these 2, you're going to see a spot where it just kind of dips a little bit. That's a pressure point. This one is called pericardium 6, and it refers to the sac around the heart. It is also called nei guan, which means the inner gate. Now, if I flip my wrist over and go to the exact opposite side of the wrist, and I go between the 2 bones at the same point, this is called the outer gate. It's called wei guan. And this one is called triple warmer 5. So if I were to take a rod or an arrow and go right through my wrist, it would go in one point and out the other. Now, both of those points are very good for anxiety. They're good for insomnia. This one here is also good for if you have a vertigo or dizziness or nausea. And so now if I take this point and I cross my wrist, and I don't want to block my face on this, but if I cross my wrist either this direction or this direction, what I've done is I've created a circuit throughout the entire body. So the energy is moving up one arm and down and out the other arm, and it's crossing at those points, and it's creating a circuit, just like a light switch. Now, if I add a 3rd point to that mix, if you take your armpit crease, and you kind of just keep following that crease up to where you run just underneath the collarbone, that is lung 1. And lung 1's nickname is called letting go, which we all need to do just a little bit, don't we? So, and I'm going to try to tilt my laptop down so the camera can kind of catch me on this one. If I cross my hands on those 2 points, and then I take my middle fingers and I put them right there below those collarbones, I have created a circuit of energy that runs through the body. And if I hold this for maybe 2 to 3 minutes and I breathe deeply, try to imagine filling the area just below my belly button and right in the middle of my body with the air. So when I'm breathing into that spot. In Chinese medicine, it's called the dantian. And it's basically a storehouse of where our energy resides. And so if I aim my breath down to that point while I'm holding these, this will alleviate the anxiety response. And so it creates a circuit of energy that gets the energy kick-started back up into its normal rhythms, and it alleviates any stagnation or any depletions or any drainages, and it allows the energy to start to flow more completely again. When you're doing this for yourself, one of the rule of thumb is if you're using your middle finger, and that's actually the best finger to use whenever you are activating pressure points, is the middle finger, is because of the meridian that it's on. It's on the pericardium meridian. And so if you were to apply a pressure really softly, and then over the course of maybe a minute or so, just kind of keep adding up pressure, eventually in your finger, you're going to feel a pulse. Now here, you might feel a different pulse, even though it's running on a different area. But like if I were to just to feel here, if I listen with my body, I will feel a pulsation into that finger. So what I want to do is I want to get a hold of that point, and I want to feel for that pulsation. I don't want to use the word pulse so much, but I want to feel that rhythm, boom, boom, boom. And if I do it on both sides, what I want to do is I want to get to the point where instead of them going boom, 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 or boom, 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 I want to get to the point where they're balanced out, where they're both at the same time going bong, bong, bong. When I get to that, I want to start releasing the pressure very slowly, like over maybe 2 minutes worth. But I want to release the pressure in a way that I'm always still feeling that pulse, that pulsation. And when I do that, when I get to the point where I barely even have my fingers, just barely even on the skin, but I'm still feeling it, that's when the point is balanced. And oftentimes when we talk about a balanced point, we talk about taking energy from a meridian that might be too high or too heavily charged, and we're draining some of that energy off into a meridian that's not charged enough, and that's what creates the balance in the body. And balance in the body is balance in your life.
Wow, beautiful. So how would you combine the Tai Chi or Qigong along with the pressure points? I mean, some exercises that we should do along with that?
There is an exercise. It would require me to stand up, so I'm going to have to just describe it to you verbally. If we stand with our feet about shoulder width apart and we face 10 toes forward, And I simply use my waist, and I start generating all of my movement from my hip and my core and my waist. And I just start moving side to side, just twisting. And I let my arms just kind of flop naturally. I don't give any muscular strength or impetus to my arms at all, but I just allow them to just flop as they will. They're eventually going to come around and hit the body or make contact with the body. So now, in here, if I follow this bone, eventually I'm going to get to this point where there's a little dip. The bone kind of does this, and then all of a sudden it has a little bump in it. That point is called large intestine 4. It's called Hoku, and it's a very important point. It does so much for the body when you use it. So what I like to try to do is I like to try to get this point to make contact with the body just underneath the rib cage in the front of the body and just underneath the rib cage in the back of the body. Now, here's the reason why, and this is why this is such a great morning exercise. Every morning, get up and do a little bit of this. My teacher always called it the washing machine because you're just moving and letting the arms just kind of swing and sway as they want to. But then you just kind of guide those hands up to where they hit just below the rib cage. On one side of the rib, now I know on the camera it's backwards, but on my right side is liver and gallbladder, and that relates to the wood meridian. On my left side is the spleen in the stomach, which relates to the earth meridian. And in the back is the kidneys and the adrenals, and it relates to the water meridian. Now, this point, large intestine 4, is the metal meridian. So now, this point is what we call an exit point. It's where energy naturally leaves the body. So as you make contact with things with that point, energy is coming out of the body and into whatever it is that you're making contact with. So if I'm spinning and my hands are just, I'll raise them up a little bit so you can see it on the camera. If I'm spinning and my hands are just coming along and making contact with the body a little bit right below my rib cage, what I'm doing is I am imparting energy into the gallbladder and liver, into the spleen and stomach, and into the kidneys and adrenals. And as an early morning exercise, this really helps to fuel those organs and get them brought back online because we've been sleeping for 6 to 8 hours, correct? So this is a way to get the waist opened up. It's a way to get the spine to relax. It's a way to get all those core muscles to, after we've been laying in bed for a while, we need to get up and kind of get moving, but strapping on a pair of shoes and going for a 10-mile jog right out of bed is not always advised. So getting that core warmed up and getting that energy to move into those organs wakes the entire body up and gets the organs ready for a full day's work without being taxed.